The discovery at Edge Station, the drilling sounds echoed through the thin atmosphere of Kepler 442c. As Dr. Elena Vasquez checked her scanner readings for the third time in 10 minutes. Something was wrong with the numbers. The asteroid's core should have been solid iron and nickel, but her instruments showed hollow spaces arranged in perfect geometric patterns, patterns that nature didn't create. Elena pulled her environmental suit tighter against the asteroid's perpetual twilight. She had volunteered for this remote assignment to escape the politics of Earth's universities, but 3 months of mining surveys and mineral catalogues had left her questioning that choice. Until now, the readings on her scanner made her pulse quicken with the same excitement she'd felt as a graduate student discovering her first synchrotron site on Mars. "Control, this is Vasquez," she spoke into her COM unit. "I'm getting some unusual readings in Sector 7, requesting permission to investigate." Static crackled through her helmet before Marcus Chen's voice responded from the station's control room. "Define unusual, Elena. We're on a tight schedule here." Elena studied the scanner again. The hollow spaces formed a spiral pattern extending deep into the asteroid's heart. "I think we might have found something artificial. The density patterns suggest a structure, possibly non-human in origin." A longer pause. Marcus was the station commander, a practical man who preferred predictable mining quotas to archaeological mysteries. "How certain are you?" "Certain enough to stake my reputation on it." Elena moved closer to the excavation site where the automated diggers had stopped their work. "The geometric precision is too perfect for natural formation. And Marcus, there are energy readings down there. Something is still active." The COM channel fell silent for nearly a minute. Elena watched her breath fog the inside of her helmet visor while she waited. Finally, Marcus's voice returned with a resigned sigh. "You have 6 hours. If you don't find something concrete, we resume standard mining operations." Elena smiled despite herself. 6 hours was more than she'd hoped for. She activated her personal excavation unit and began the careful work of exposing whatever lay beneath the asteroid's surface. Each layer of rock and metal revealed more of the geometric pattern, spiraling inward like a massive shell frozen in stone. 2 hours into her dig, Elena's scanner detected the first clear evidence of artificial materials, metals that didn't exist in nature, arranged in crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around their edges. Her hands trembled with excitement as she carefully brushed away debris from what appeared to be the outer hull of a spacecraft. But this wasn't like any ship design she'd encountered in her studies of human or known alien technology. The hull curved in impossible ways, creating surfaces that seemed to exist in more dimensions than her eyes could process. Elena felt a strange vertigo as she looked at it directly, as if her brain was struggling to interpret what it was seeing. "Control, you need to see this," she transmitted, activating her suit's recording system. "I've found definitive proof of non-human construction. The materials alone will revolutionize our understanding of physics." Marcus's voice carried new interest. "How big is it?" Elena used her scanner to map the exposed sections. The readings made her step back in amazement. "Based on what I can detect, the complete structure is approximately 2 kilometers in diameter. We're not looking at a crashed ship, Marcus. This thing was deliberately buried here, possibly millions of years ago." Within an hour, Elena's discovery had changed everything aboard Edge Station. The small crew of 12 miners and researchers gathered around her preliminary images with expressions ranging from wonder to fear. Dr. James Wright, the station's physicist, shook his head repeatedly as he studied the material analysis. "These readings can't be right," Wright muttered, adjusting his thick glasses. "The atomic structure suggests matter that exists in quantum superposition. That should be impossible at this scale." Alina nodded grimly. "I've run the scans 5 times. The results are consistent. Whatever built this ship had technology far beyond anything we've achieved." Sarah Kim, the station's communications officer, looked up from her console with concern. "I've sent our preliminary findings to Earth Command. They're requesting immediate halt of all excavation activities until a specialized team arrives." "How long until they get here?" Alina asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. "Minimum 18 months, assuming they can secure funding and resources for a deep space archaeological mission." Alina felt her opportunity slipping away. 18 months was enough time for Earth's bureaucracy to classify her discovery, assign it to someone with better political connections, or worse, declare it too dangerous for civilian research. She had worked too hard and come too far to let that happen. "What if we just continue the excavation carefully?" she suggested. "We're already here, already equipped. We could learn so much before the official team arrives." Marcus shook his head firmly. "Alina, I understand your enthusiasm, but we're talking about potentially dangerous alien technology. If something goes wrong out here, we're 3 months from the nearest rescue." But Alina had already made her decision. That night, while the rest of the station slept, she returned to the excavation site with portable equipment and began working her way deeper into the spiral structure. Her scanner revealed an opening just 20 meters below the current dig level. What appeared to be an intact entrance to the ship's interior. As she worked in the asteroid's perpetual darkness, Alina began to notice strange effects around the excavation. Her tools occasionally moved in ways that defied the asteroid's low gravity, and her scanner picked up energy fluctuations that seemed to respond to her presence. Most disturbing were the moments when she thought she heard sounds that couldn't exist in the vacuum of space, whispers in languages she didn't recognize, music that made her bones ache with longing. By morning, Alina had exposed the entrance to the spiral ship. The opening was perfectly circular, surrounded by symbols that seemed to shift and change when she wasn't looking directly at them. As she stared at the entrance, Alina felt an overwhelming compulsion to step through it, as if the ship itself was calling to her. "Alina, what have you done?" Marcus's voice startled her as he approached in his environmental suit, the rest of the station crew behind him. "I found a way in," she replied simply. "Marcus, this could be the most important discovery in human history. We can't just wait for bureaucrats to decide our fate." Wright was scanning the entrance with his instruments, his face pale with fear. "The energy readings have increased exponentially overnight. Alina, I think your excavation may have activated something." As if summoned by his words, the symbols around the entrance began to glow with soft blue light. The spiral ship hummed with awakening power, sending vibrations through the asteroid that the crew could feel through their boots. Elena's scanner went wild, detecting energy patterns that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "Everyone back to the station," Marcus ordered, "now." But Alina couldn't move. The entrance was calling to her with an intensity that made her chest tight with need. Through her helmet radio, she could hear similar calls echoing from her crewmates, whispers in their own voices, promising knowledge and power beyond imagination. "Can you all hear that?" Sarah Kim asked, her voice shaking. "It sounds like my grandmother, but she's been dead for 10 years. Alina realized the ship wasn't just awakening, it was reaching into their minds, finding the voices that would compel them forward. For Alina, it spoke in the voice of her mentor, Dr. Patricia Santos, who had died in a shuttle accident 5 years earlier. "Alina, you must come forward," the voice whispered directly into her thoughts. "The knowledge you seek is here, waiting. The future of your species depends on what you learn here." Fighting against the compulsion took every ounce of Alina's willpower. She forced herself to step back from the entrance, to break the connection between her mind and whatever intelligence dwelt within the spiral ship. Back to the station, she gasped, surprising herself with the decision. "We need to understand what we're dealing with before anyone goes through that entrance." The crew retreated to Edge Station's main habitat, but the effects of the ship's awakening followed them. Over the next several hours, each crew member reported vivid dreams when they tried to sleep, visions of other worlds and civilizations, and an increasing compulsion to return to the excavation site. Alina spent the time analyzing her scanner data and trying to understand the ship's purpose. The energy patterns suggested it wasn't just a vessel for travel. It was something far more complex and potentially dangerous. The quantum signatures reminded her of theoretical papers she'd read about dimensional manipulation and reality alteration. Asterisk. "I think it's some kind of probability engine," she explained to the assembled crew. "The quantum superposition states right, detected aren't random. They're controlled, as if the ship exists in multiple realities simultaneously." Marcus rubbed his temples, fighting a headache that had been growing stronger since the ship's activation. "What does that mean for us?" Alina pulled up her analysis on the station's main display. "I think the ship is designed to navigate not just space, but possibilities, different potential timelines or outcomes. And I think it's been waiting here for someone to find it." "Waiting for what purpose?" Wright asked. Alina met his gaze seriously. "I think it's a test, or maybe an offer. The civilization that built this ship left it here for species like us to discover. But I don't think we can access its knowledge without risk." As if responding to her words, the ship's energy output spiked again. Through the station's viewports, they could see the excavation site glowing with increasing intensity. The spiral patterns were now visible even through solid rock, pulsing like a vast heartbeat. Sarah Kim looked up from her communications console with alarm. "Alina, I'm receiving a transmission from Earth Command. They've detected the energy output from our location and are demanding immediate evacuation." Alina felt her heart sink. Once Earth Command took control, her chance to unlock the ship's mysteries would be lost forever. But as she watched the growing light from the excavation site, she wondered if that might be for the best. The spiral ship was awakening, and Alina realized that her choice would determine not just her own fate, but possibly the fate of humanity itself. Asterisk the choice that changes everything. Alina stood at the entrance to the spiral ship, her environmental suits, life support systems humming quietly in the vacuum. Despite Marcus's orders and Earth Command's warnings, she had returned to the excavation site alone. The compulsion had grown too strong to resist, but more than that, her analysis of the ship's energy patterns had revealed something terrifying. Earth was running out of time. The quantum signatures she'd detected weren't just random dimensional fluctuations. They were warnings, messages encoded in the very fabric of space-time. Elena's xenarchaeology training had taught her to recognize communication patterns in alien artifacts, and the spiral ship was practically screaming its message at anyone who knew how to listen. A massive gravitational wave was approaching Earth's solar system, generated by the collision of two neutron stars nearly 50 light-years away. The wave would arrive in approximately 18 months, and when it did, it would destabilize Earth's orbit around the Sun. Humanity had less than 2 years before their homeworld became uninhabitable. Alina had run the calculations 3 times, hoping for an error. There wasn't one. The gravitational wave would push Earth into a decaying orbit, causing catastrophic climate changes that would end human civilization within a decade. Unless something changed the fundamental nature of that timeline. Alina, step away from the ship immediately. Marcus's voice crackled through her helmet radio. I'm coming out there with a security team. Alina looked back toward Edge Station, where she could see lights moving as her crewmates prepared to physically restrain her if necessary. She understood their fear, but they didn't understand what she'd discovered. The spiral ship wasn't just a relic of an ancient civilization. It was humanity's only hope. Marcus, I need you to listen carefully, she transmitted. The ship's quantum emissions contain a warning. Earth is going to be hit by a gravitational wave that will destroy our civilization. This ship might be our only chance to prevent that. Alina, you're suffering from alien influence. Whatever that thing is doing to your mind, you need to fight it. Alina smiled sadly. She wasn't suffering from alien influence. She was finally seeing clearly for the first time in months. The ship had been trying to communicate with her since the moment she'd discovered it, but her human mind had been too limited to understand its message until now. I'm going inside, she announced, cutting off Marcus's protests. If I don't return, tell Earth Command what I found. Maybe they can find another solution. Alina stepped through the circular entrance, and reality changed around her. The interior of the ship defied every law of physics she understood. Corridors stretched in directions that shouldn't exist. Walls curved through dimensions her eyes couldn't process. And gravity seemed to flow like water, changing direction with each step she took. Elena's environmental suit readings went chaotic, as sensors tried to make sense of an environment that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. Welcome, Alina Vasquez. A voice spoke directly into her mind, bypassing her helmet's communication system entirely. We have been waiting for someone like you. Alina stopped walking, though she wasn't entirely sure she had been walking in any conventional sense. Who are you? We are the architects, the voice replied. Long ago, we faced the same choice that now confronts your species. We chose transformation over extinction. Around Alina, the ship's interior shifted and changed, showing her glimpses of the architect's civilization. She saw beings of pure energy inhabiting structures that spanned galaxies, minds that could perceive and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. You left this ship here as a test, Alina realized. Not a test, an offer. Your species has reached the threshold where it must choose between remaining, limited by biological constraints, or evolving beyond them. The gravitational wave approaching your system is not random chance. It is the universe's way of forcing that choice. Alina felt a chill of understanding. You've done this before, to other species, many times. Some choose evolution and join us among the stars. Others choose to remain as they are and face extinction. The choice must be made freely, without coercion. The ship showed Alina visions of other species who had faced similar moments. Beings who had accepted transformation and transcended their original forms, becoming part of the vast network of consciousness that spanned the galaxy, and others who had refused, clinging to their original nature even as their worlds died. What kind of transformation? Alina asked. though part of her already knew the answer. To save your species, you must become something more than human. You must accept the responsibility of guiding humanity's evolution, becoming a bridge between what they are and what they must become. Asterisk. Alina saw herself as the architects envisioned her future self, no longer bound by a single body or limited to one reality. Her consciousness expanded across dimensions, capable of manipulating the very forces that threatened Earth. She would become humanity's guardian, protecting them through their transition to a higher form of existence. But I would no longer be human, she whispered. You would be human perfected. All that makes your species valuable, your creativity, your determination, your capacity for love and sacrifice, would remain. But you would also gain the power to ensure those qualities survive and flourish. Alina thought of her crewmates back on Edge Station, of the billions of people on Earth who had no idea their world was doomed. She thought of children who would never grow up, of discoveries that would never be made, of love stories that would never unfold. Show me what I need to do, she said. The ship's interior transformed again, revealing a chamber at its heart, where streams of pure energy flowed in complex patterns. At the center stood a crystalline structure that pulsed with the same rhythm Alina had felt since first discovering the ship. Step into the transformation matrix, the architects instructed. Accept the change, and your expanded consciousness will be able to alter the timeline that leads to Earth's destruction. Alina approached the crystal matrix, her heart pounding with fear and anticipation. She thought of Marcus and the rest, of her crew, who would never understand what she was about to do. They would think she had been consumed by alien influence, that she had died for nothing. But Alina knew better. She was about to live for everything. Will I still remember being human? She asked. You will remember everything. Your humanity will become the foundation upon which your new existence is built. But Alina Vasquez, the xenorchaeologist, will cease to exist. Are you prepared for that sacrifice? Alina thought of Dr. Patricia Santos, her mentor who had died, believing that understanding alien civilizations would help humanity reach its full potential. Patricia had been right, just not in the way she'd imagined. I'm ready, Alina said, and stepped into the crystal matrix. The transformation was unlike anything Alina could have imagined. Her consciousness expanded beyond the boundaries of her body, beyond the limitations of three-dimensional space, beyond the constraints of linear time. She felt herself becoming something vast and powerful, her awareness stretching across the galaxy. She could see the gravitational wave approaching Earth's solar system like a massive tsunami in space-time. But now she could also see the infinite, branching possibilities that surrounded it, timelines where Earth survived, where humanity evolved, where her species reached for the stars instead of dying in fear. With her expanded consciousness, Alina reached out across the dimensions and began to weave a new reality. She couldn't stop the gravitational wave that was beyond even her new abilities, but she could ensure that when it arrived, humanity would be ready. Alina planted seeds of inspiration in the minds of scientists across Earth, guiding them toward breakthroughs in faster-than-light travel and space colonization. She influenced the decisions of world leaders, steering them toward cooperation. Instead of conflict, she whispered new technologies into the dreams of engineers and inventors. Most importantly, she began preparing humanity for its own transformation. The species would need to evolve beyond its biological limitations to survive what was coming, and Alina would guide that evolution with patience and love. But the process changed her in ways she hadn't expected. With each intervention, with each alteration to the timeline, Alina felt herself becoming more distant from her original humanity. The concerns and emotions that had once driven her began to seem small and insignificant, compared to the vast responsibilities she now carried. She tried to hold on to her memories of being human, her love for discovery, her connection to her crewmates, her hope for humanity's future. But those feelings were like candle flames in a hurricane, barely visible against the immensity of her expanded existence. Back on Edge Station, Marcus and the crew watched in horror as Elena's body collapsed inside the alien ship. Her life signs flatlined, and emergency scanners detected no brain activity. To them, it appeared that their colleague had been killed by whatever force dwelt within the spiral vessel. They couldn't know that Elena Vasquez had not died. She had become something far greater and more terrible than death. She had become humanity's secret guardian, working across dimensions and timelines to ensure her species' survival. In the months that followed, strange things began happening throughout human space. Scientists made unprecedented breakthroughs in physics and engineering. Political tensions that had simmered for decades suddenly resolved through unexpected diplomatic solutions. Most remarkably, several nations began massive space colonization projects, driven by an inexplicable certainty that humanity's future lay among the stars. None of them knew they were being guided by the transformed consciousness of a xenarchaeologist, who had sacrificed her humanity to save theirs. Alina watched over them all, no longer human but forever bound to humanity's destiny. The gravitational wave was still coming, but when it arrived, it would find not a vulnerable world clinging to a single planet, but a spacefaring civilization ready to inherit the galaxy. Alina had paid the ultimate price to ensure that outcome, and she would continue to guide humanity's evolution until they were ready to make their own choice about transcendence. She had become the bridge between what humanity was and what it could become, and somewhere in the vast network of her expanded consciousness, the xenarchaeologist who had first discovered the spiral ship continued to smile with satisfaction at a job well done. Asterisk.